If you give me 5 minutes, I will give you 20 tips for making better videos with your mobile phone camera. You ready? Start the timer. Tip number 1 is work with whatever phone camera you currently have, because great cinematography is not about the quality of your technology. It is about the art of cinematography. Tip number 2, activate your phone's grid. Those lines there. That's what you want. Or like this. Tip number 3, you always want to be respecting the rule of thirds. This is why. Good framing, central framing, it can work. This doesn't work because I'm trying to show the building in the back. This is weird. This is weird. This is weird. This is weird. I'm a bit weird. Tip number 4, know your shot sizes. Basically, you want a diversity of shot, and I talked a lot about it in this video. Here's a look at what it kind of looks like. This is a wide shot. This is an extreme close-up. This is a close-up. This is a medium close-up. You get the idea. We also have to talk about color, which accounts for the next 2 tips. Tip number 5, use color psychology. Color communicates certain feelings, and taking advantage of that in your shots will help to make them better. Here's a little test. Which one of these is sad? Which one is happy? Which one is anxious? These colors mean absolutely nothing on their own. We project it on them, and so use it. Wait, pause the timer for a second. Hi, okay. If you're new to my channel, hi. I'm Pat. I've worked in television. I have been a filmmaking teacher, and now my family and I are moving from Canada to Vietnam to live 2 years of adventure under the Southeast Asian sun. So soon, I'll have a bunch of travel videos and stuff. But for now, I keep running around, so let's just get back to mobile filmmaking. Tip number 6 is to use color combinations. Again, with the circles. Which ones are complementary? Which ones clash? Most directors pay a huge amount of attention to color in their shots. Think Wes Anderson. So even if you're making a simple YouTube video, you can use color to really drive home the emotions you're trying to drive home. There are better ways of saying that, but we're short on time. Let's go. Lucky number 7 is for light intensity. A bright sunny day is great for 2 reasons. Number 1, it looks like a bright sunny day. And number 2, it is better for cheaper cameras. Because generally speaking, the cheaper the camera, the less well it performs in low light situations. So more light, better video. But be careful because tip number 8 is to be aware of the contrast between highlights and shadows. Our eyes are pretty good at seeing whatever there is to see, even when there's a high contrast like this. Cameras are not so great, especially cheaper ones. So be aware of high contrast situations and try to avoid them if you can, especially with a phone camera. That being said, tip number 9 is to adjust to the highlights when you are filming in auto mode. So you just click on the point of where there's the most light and it will darken everything. You can adjust it in post-production. If you click on the point where there is less light on the darker side, all of this might be blown out and you will not be able to go and recuperate that information. Your shots will be more interesting if there's depth in them. A person standing up against a wall, even a nice old wall, is not that interesting. If you just angle your camera a bit, like so, much better. Depth in my shot. And also, this is my good side. Just kidding. I don't have a good side. Pay attention to sources of light. Let's call that tip number 11. Now behind me is very little light. If I move like this a bit, already there's more depth in my scene because there's that light down there. But I could turn my camera like so, and automatically I've got more depth. Isn't that interesting? But you don't only want to flood your scene with light. You want something more cinematic, a nice look. This right here is improvised 3-point lighting. So I have a main source of light on this side of my face, and I have a bit of light coming from this side, which is reflecting, which is a fill light. So it's evening out some of the shadows. And then behind me, I have a backlight. So this is light that is detaching me from the background. It is also adding depth in my scene. You need to figure out 3-point lighting or how to sculpt light, how to figure out where to place people in order to have nice light in any situation. Tip number 13 is to shoot into the shadows. That means putting your camera on the shadowy side of a person's face. It gives you a more cinematic look than putting it on that side of my face, doesn't it? Pause the timer. That is a whole lot of information in a very small amount of time. Are you good? If you have any questions or you want more information, let me know in the comments. If not, if you're good, let's get into some techie stuff. Sounds good to me. Resume the timer. Even if I said your phone's camera is good enough, it might not be set to be as good as it could be. So go into your settings and select the highest possible quality. 1080p is okay. 4K is better. Basically, this determines how much information is in each shot, and it's calculated in pixels. More pixels, better quality. Got it? Okay. Once you've chosen your video quality, you have to choose between 24, 30, and 60. This is your frames per second. It's the amount of images your camera takes in 1 second, and when you play them back to back fast enough, it simulates movement. Now, tip number 15 is go with 24 FPS because that is what they use in the movies. If you have the option, tip number 16 is to select 10-bit HDR. Again, this is a matter of the amount of information in each shot. You want lots of that because it gives you options in the edit. Now you can get filming. You might wonder what to do with the settings for exposure and white balance. These guys. If you're not going to adjust them for every single shot, tip number 17 is to leave them on auto mode. I've already mentioned the trick to adjust for highlights, but tip number 18 is to manually adjust exposure and white balance for every single shot. Gonna go in and you are going to expose manually like so. White balance basically is if white looks white, every other color is going to look how it's supposed to look. It is daylight outside, so we are talking about something like 5,600, about there. White looks white, we are good. Tip number 19, figure out a way to stabilize your shots. You might think you have steady hands, but you don't. Shaky video is okay in some situations like an action movie, but generally speaking, stable video is better. One thing you should invest in is a microphone like the one I'm wearing now. You could get away with bad video, but you cannot get away with bad audio. Let me prove it. If you're curious about what this is, my gear list is below. Okay, stop the timer. If you pay attention to all 20 of those tips, you will have great videos with your phone camera every single time. Now, get out there and make some movie magic. And please, say hi in the comments. I'd love to hear if this was useful for you. Cheers.